a studio in there, and in a minute I'm going to go in and talk to Hilary Smale, Northwest ABC reporter and presenter, about China and art. How wonderful.
Just picture this for a little few minutes. What would the Dampier foreshore look like with a great big skyscraper in it? Don't worry, it's definitely not in the pipeline, but it is in a painting which is being created at the moment by a Karratha-based artist. Yanni Johns has just returned after spending 2 months in an art studio in Beijing, but he's made his way back to the Pilbara and he joins us on Mornings today. Welcome to the program, Yanni.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Can you tell us about a typical day in the life of an artist in Beijing?
In Beijing? Oh, God. Getting up at the crack of noon. Well, what I was doing over there was a residency, and part of that residency was to discover China and connect with Chinese galleries and Chinese artists and all that sort of stuff. I was in like an arts compound, and the Shangri-La, and the day in my life there was get up, have brekkie, go down the studio, put some paint on canvas, and then as the day gets on, go out and discover more things to work with and paint. And my thesis for going there was joining the Pilbara with modern China.
Can you tell us more about that? Why is that a relationship that you're interested in learning more about?
Well, I'm totally fascinated by the place. I mean, the landscape is some of the oldest landscape on Earth, they say. And I mean, I don't know how you can judge that because the planet's a big ball. It's all kind of the same age. But anyway, our terrain is the oldest. And it's quite magnificent to look at. And I see hundreds and hundreds of tons of it being taken away every day by ships. And I love those trains. They just go on forever. And part of the reason I got the residency was I put to them that I want to go over there and discover the other side of what happens to our turf, our land, as it's taken over there and turned into other things. And I chose architectural things. And what I'm planning now is a bunch of paintings that respond to that connection. And it's like all these things are being birthed out of the soil. If you know what I mean.
Can you tell us what kind of things? What did you discover when you went over there?
Well, I was crazy. None of them knew where the iron ore was coming from. Most of the people I spoke to, even in business, because I was plugged into a lot of China business and stuff like that. And, you give us the iron ore. They were very kind of surprised about it. So the relevance to them wasn't as important as the relevance to us.
Sure.
And because I live here, I figured, I kind of threw it up in the air when I was there. I thought, forget it. It's not a good idea. But as I was there and I was seeing more of old China and new China, there's this big delineation point between the two. You know, there's 1,000-year-old temples and hutongs that don't at all look like the new China, the new space age China. So what I was thinking of was to create a tension or a difference, and so this is why I've put these billion-year-old rocks with contemporary architecture sitting in this bizarre place.
Well, let's talk about that. Yanni Johns is with us on Mornings today, and he's just returned from a 2-month residency in Beijing, and he's an artist based in Karratha. And you're coming up with a new painting. Can you describe it?
I'm coming up with a series of them, actually.
Sure, yeah.
One of the places I first came to when I came to Karratha, followed my wife here. She works in the mining industry. She's an engineer. We went to Dampier Lookout. And it's pretty important in the sense of art history in Australia because Geoffrey Smart depicted Dampier from 1962. And so what I was looking at was the major differences between the way he depicted his version of Dampier and the way I do it, because a lot of people say that I paint like Geoffrey Smart, which is very flattering. And so I'm picking up on history as well with this kind of thing. He had a guy who was a clown sitting on the rocks in front of it, and behind him is like a navigation thing, strange shaped object. And so if you look at my work, it's taking that notion and extending it into the contemporary world. And I've taken an object not from Dampier, but from Dampier in a sense that all that dirt goes over there to make that stuff and bring it back, and that's why it's on that particular.
Can you describe it? What it looks like? It's a painting, or at this stage, it's a painting of the Dampier Lookout.
The Dampier Lookout,
Very
looking up at it, and then growing behind that is the CCTV building, which is like where China's TV is broadcast from, and other things. Because everywhere you go in China, there's cameras on you. I went to a restaurant in the 798 Art District. It's like every Chinese restaurant you've seen on old films. It's just so beautiful, this place. But I noticed in a moment between eating gorgeous food that things were looking at me, and I looked up at the roof. I counted 28 cameras just in that room watching.
Wow.
And wherever you go, there was a camera looking at my studio door. There's cameras looking at the studio compound, and straight out the gate there's more cameras looking at you, and everywhere you go there's cameras, and it's CCTV conjured up that kind of naughtiness in my mind as well, you know.
Well, I can't wait to see the finished product. It's a really interesting contradiction, but also bringing together of, as you say, the two worlds there.
Well, I've also got one I'm planning. They've got this magnificent thing they call the Egg, and it's their performing arts centre. And do you know that mountain out at Millstream that looks like a cone?
Oh yes, yeah.
I put the Egg behind the cone.
Love it.
Just nudging out onto the road, and other things like the Egg on a warship, and lots and lots of ideas running with that modern architecture and our beautiful Pilbara-ness. You know, so it's a marrying of things.
Yeah, definitely. How important is it for you as an artist to find a new space, a new perspective when you're creating work?
Well, it's very important. It's very important. You know, me moving from, I lived on the Central Coast for 25 years or something, and I was painting and living in that area for that time, and then got married in 2013, and my wife said, "I've got a job in Karratha, let's go." And it was like, oh, what? And I was sort of mortified until I got here, and it was like my eyes were opened up again. And you know, this is a gorgeous land here, and I'm not predominantly a landscape artist. You know, I'm a city boy, and but it's opened my eyes to the land and the space and the light, and you know, things that are attractive and also important. You know, the land is very important.
Has it stretched you, do you think? You're saying you're not...
And then being injected into China, it just opened them again. It was crazy. For a week there I was just like, what the hell? You know, what am I going to do? And then I started, while in China, responding to things that I saw there. So I've got a group of things that I've responded to in China, and the result moving forward is the China Pilbara, the Sino Pilbara. And I will try and get that up here. I've got a show of other stuff in Seoul Cafe in February, of some of my other art, pseudo symbolism, strange people in strange places, in love with strange, highly manufactured objects. And that's one I got the highly commended for.
For the Cossack Art Awards,
and
yes,
that was a painting of the Caltex over here at Karratha. And I call it Smart Ed's One Stop Shop, Karratha. And that's, again, harking back to the history of art with Jeffrey Smart and Ed Rusher, and bringing it to Karratha. Pop art comes to Karratha, so to speak. And then I put my strange person holding a strange object in the foreground. And lo and behold, I got a highly commended. I didn't think it'd get in, actually. And there you go.
Can you tell me what it's like being based in Karratha as an artist? Perhaps not the centre of the cultural world in Australia, but do you feel isolated here?
Yes.
Is it different from being in a place like New York or even Beijing, where there is an art hub and everyone can sort of meet up?
I've shown in New York, and I've shown, you know, just about in every capital city of Australia, and where I was kind of a kingpin in the art scene, and I was, can I say, I was an arts reporter for 92.5 ABC over there for 9 years, so it kind of plugs you into everything. when I came here, I was totally unplugged. It was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But then I concentrated on being a global artist rather than regional, and developed a website and became more vocal and more out there on social networking and things like that. And that really didn't affect me so much, in the sense that I was doing work, selling work through auctions online and all that sort of stuff. So it really, I had a show in Sydney last year, so I was over there for that, and 2 shows this year in Beijing, and New York coming up in the next year or so. So it's still active as hell.
You're unplugged but still connected there in the networks.
And I've got a whole lot of paintings coming back from Sydney this week for Soul Cafe in February, as I said. But I've been connected with a gallery in Perth.
Great. We'll have to stay in touch, Yanni.
So I've got a show there in April where all this Pilbara stuff's going.
It's
so
going to
we
be.
might come and have a chat about that.
Definitely, yeah.
I'll lend you some pictures for your Facebooks.
We'd love to see them. And just finally, Yanni, can you tell us what it was like going from Beijing and your 2-month residency there in your studio in this busy place?
Magic studio, they're huge.
Coming back to Karratha, flying back in. What was that like?
Have you ever seen those military videos where the plane's rocketing along and it lands on the deck of a carrier?
Yes.
It's going like 5,000 miles an hour, then it goes to nothing.
The Bond films usually do something like
it's
that.
There's a rest hook. This is a reminder, you're home. So, but then I've been so busy because I got offered a show in Perth, as I said, and I've got another gallerist that I met in Beijing, and I met this Perth gallery guy in Beijing as well, who was trying to get me to have a show in Melbourne as well. So if you're an artist, seek out the residencies, because they are magnificent. And you might think, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to achieve? But you do achieve stuff. It opens your eyes. You paint in different ways. You meet the right people. So it's really, really beneficial. Some
great advice there. Yanni, thank you for taking the time to come in and chat to us on Mornings.
It's my pleasure.
Wonderful. That's Yanni Johns. He's an artist based in Karratha. He's most recently, you probably would have seen his work at the Cossack Art Awards if you got to that this year. But as you heard, he's working now towards a collection which was inspired by his residency in Beijing for a couple of months earlier in the year. It's 22 after 11. Hilary Spencer.